Johnson, in case many of you may not know who he is. So Mr. Johnson is an accomplished real estate broker who specializes and teaches others how to create generational wealth through real estate investing and entrepreneurship. He's a licensed broker in 4 states with over 20 years of real estate experience. Keto has done over 1,000 transactions. He's a master networker, a speaker, and a CEO of the Atlanta-based Buy and Sell Incorporated. Keto has been dubbed the guy to know in circles ranging from community leaders to elite investors. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring on the one, the only, Mr. Keto Johnson. Mr. Johnson, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Doing great. Just telling my audience here about your accomplishments and whatnot. I wanted to, if you could go ahead and tell them a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I got a bone to pick with you. Every time somebody reads that introduction and they say that I've been in this business over 20 years, you blow my cover. I'm still trying to pass for a guy in my late 20s. So that would be But Gerald, I certainly appreciate this opportunity. I have been in the business, actually started at age 20. And I'll be 42 in July this year. So I got about 22 years of experience behind me.
Wow.
When it comes to real estate. And I, like a lot of people who found their way to this industry, got started because of a little book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. One day I was flipping through the television's channel, and there was this guy sitting on Oprah Winfrey's couch. She was interviewing him about his then new release, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I went out and bought the book, read it cover to cover in a couple of days. And, you know, as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah, actually, I read that book a while back. It was that book, and it was Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, yeah.
That is probably my all-time favorite book. I mean, Think and Grow Rich is powerful, powerful.
Yes. So this is amazing for me to be here with you today. I'm just happy to be able to share with your family, the house flipping family.
Yes. Yes, yes. It's interesting, right? So in the house flipping family, there's a little over 19,000 members in the group, and on the House Flipping Guide YouTube channel, it's a little over 44,000 or something like that. So the following has been tremendous, and it's just one of the things that we pride ourselves on is really just bringing you value. And so when I go ahead and I let people know, hey, you know, this person is legit, this person is about their business, all I do is bring value. And that's one of the reasons the following has increased tremendously. So it was, you know, going ahead and really just meeting you and taking the time to get to know you, as, you know, you have dropped pearls of wisdom in my life. And I really appreciate, you know, who you are as a person, you know, so.
Likewise, I feel the same way, not just you, but your wife, if there ever was a power couple.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. So we're going to go ahead and talk about, ladies and gentlemen, short-term rentals, long-term profits, the fast track to a 6-figure passive income with Airbnb. So one of the things I've been telling people in the house flipping family is the Airbnb niche. People don't understand the market is changing. And I'm going to go ahead and give you the mic, but the market is changing. However, I tell people all the time, you know, this Airbnb, there's that type of different niches in real estate. Airbnb has always been a hot button with me, always. Well, actually, I can say always. I'm going to say for the past, I want to say maybe 6, 7 years, only because of my experience, like in the hotel industry. People don't understand. I mean, like nowadays, you have Uber, and look what happened to the tax and the taxi industry. You got Airbnb now. Look what's happening to it's becoming the Uber of real estate, and it's powerful. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to let Keto Johnson go ahead and take over, and he got some treats and some tips for you all this evening. And Keto, feel free to go ahead and take it away.
Okay, absolutely. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Well, again, Gerald, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I want to thank everybody for being here, whether you're part of the House Flipping Guide or the House Flipping family. Thank you for jumping on tonight. I've got some very powerful stuff that I'm going to seek to compact and pack into this next 25, 30 minutes or so, and bring you up to speed on where we are in the market and why understanding short-term rentals is so important. I'm going to talk about how you can create long-term profits with short-term rentals, and we'll deal a little bit about the fast track that you can find yourself on to create a six-figure passive income with platforms like Airbnb.
Good deal.
All right, so just give you a heads up, this is where we're going into training. I'm going to spend a few moments and talk about who I am. I'll talk about some of the world's wealthiest brands, and Gerald just, he kind of mentioned it briefly, but I'm going to jump back on that for a second. And I'm going to talk about the phenomenon that we're in right now concerning short-term rentals. Then I'll talk about personally what my pivot was and how I found my way to this particular niche of investing. Then we'll talk about the possibilities. I want to debunk some myths about short-term rentals. And then if you stick on all the way to the end, I've got a free gift, and Gerald and I put together something that we want to give you free for sticking on until the end of this training. So I am a serial entrepreneur. I have been in business since I was around 9 years old. And I say around 9 because my father's always been an entrepreneur, and he's retired now, but he helps me around my business now. But I grew up in a household with a father, with a dad who owned several businesses, one of which was a construction company. And he came home one day when I was about 9 years old, and he handed me a box of business cards. On those business cards, it said, Keto Johnson, computer consultant. So the cat's already out the bag. You know how old I really am, so I can tell you all of this story. But at that time, computer consultant was something completely new. I mean, we had just gotten dial-up internet with a service called Prodigy. And we were paying $19.99 for dial-up internet on a monthly basis. And I didn't know anything. We had just gotten the internet. I had just gotten a computer. But my dad said that I was a computer consultant. And that did something in me that to this day is one of the many small gestures that my father did to inspire entrepreneurship in me. So from that day to selling candy at school to cutting grass, and the list goes on and on. I've been involved in a lot of entrepreneurial endeavors, even still to this day, including but not limited to real estate. I'm a seasoned investor. Again, I've done this now for almost 22 years. I acquired my first property at the age of 20. And people often ask me, they say, what is it exactly that you do? And the best way that I know to explain it is, I say, if it has to do with residential real estate, I either do it or have done it. So everything from fix and flipping to buy and holding to wholesaling, to being a landlord, to owner financing, to short sales, to new construction, to mortgage lending and credit repair. And the list just goes on and on and on. If it has to do with residential real estate in some way or another, I've been involved in it. So I'm an authority on real estate, and I am, more importantly than all of that, I am a man of faith. I've been featured in Black Enterprise, on CNN, Flipology. I've been on several praise stations, Praise 102.5 in Atlanta. I've been on Baltimore's praise station. And the list just goes on and on and on. I am the author of an Amazon bestseller entitled Real Estate Wealth. Remove the guesswork from investing and create a six-figure strategy. So I wrote that book after years and years of training others and coaching and teaching and hosting various meetings and seminars, because I found that a whole lot of people knew that they wanted to be in the industry. They knew it was the place to be, but they didn't necessarily know what made sense for them or where to start for them. So I make it very clear this is a book for newbies. It helps you organize your life and consider what's the best strategy concerning real estate based on where you are right now in your life. These two pictures represent my motivation. I'm a single father of two. I won't go into the backstory, but I will say, long story short, when I was 20 years old, right before jumping into real estate, I met the woman of my dreams. We got married. We were together 11 years. We had two children, and she took ill suddenly after the birth of our second daughter, or after the birth of our second child. My daughter was born, and right before my daughter turned 2, unfortunately, my wife passed away. So for the last 10 or so years, I've been a single dad, and these two are why I'm still here. They are my motivation completely. This picture on the right was taken just a few weeks ago. My son is 16 years old. He was preparing to go to his junior prom, and we were taking pictures before he left with his prom date. And of course, there's the photo of my daughter. Now, I want to talk about true legacy, and I'll just point this out real quick. But for me, and I make it clear whenever I talk about real estate or any avenue or area of real estate, for me, real estate is simply my chosen vehicle. It's my vehicle of choice. The real goal, the end game, is generational wealth and creating something bigger than myself so that when I'm no longer here, not just my children, but that my children's children are impacted by the life that I live. And so I think true legacy and true wealth goes far beyond finances and financial increase. And Bishop Jakes, I believe, said it best. He says, it's not what you leave for your children. Instead, it is what you leave in your children. And so that picture there on the right is a picture of my grandfather. That's my mom's dad. We called him Granddaddy, and he passed away just a few years ago. He was in his mid-90s when he passed away. And he taught me some very powerful things growing up. And earlier I talked about the small gestures that our parents do in our life. Well, my grandfather took me to C&S Bank when I was like 12 years old. And he got me not a savings account, but a checking account. And he co-signed on that checking account for me. And he began to teach me principles of managing money. And as a 12-year-old with a checking account, I remember the very first check that I wrote was at a store called Rich Way. And I wrote a check for 89 cents for a king-size Butterfinger bar. and Gerald, what's so funny is I still like Butterfingers to this day. An hour ago, I ate Butterfinger. But that was the very first check that I wrote. Now, Rich Way is no longer around. I think they eventually merged and turned into Target stores. But that was something that has impacted me. And my grandfather played a huge role in that very simple lesson and teaching me how to manage money, among many, many other things. But that is true legacy. That's something that he left in me. Now, Gerald kind of touched on this, right? He mentioned Uber. These are some of the world's wealthiest brands. Like, these companies are multi-million-dollar companies, and some even billion-dollar companies. And Uber is one of them. Uber is responsible for transporting more people from one place to another, but Uber doesn't own any vehicles. Facebook is responsible for more content than any other platform, but Facebook does not create content. Amazon, Etsy, and eBay are responsible for selling more products than any other companies, but yet they don't manufacture products. And so it is the same with Airbnb. Airbnb is responsible for more people staying overnight, yet Airbnb doesn't own any hotel rooms, right? They don't own any hotels. Now, I've heard there's some things in the works and they might change that model a little bit, or they're testing it in some places, but you get the point. All of these major brands have become extremely wealthy and household names, but they don't create or manufacture any of the things that they are selling or transporting or giving to other people. And that brings me to this slide. That is because we now live in what's known as a peer-to-peer economy, or a share economy. A peer-to-peer economy is where individuals buy or sell goods or services directly with other individuals without an intermediary or another business. A share economy is the use of technology to facilitate the exchanged access of goods and services. And what's interesting here in this article, this magazine, this Forbes magazine article, which, by the way, is 6 years old, February 2013, the question here is, who wants to be not just a millionaire, but who wants to be a billionaire? And it's talking about Airbnb, and that's the CEO of Airbnb, Brian Chesky. And it says this peer-to-peer share economy is creating millions of micro entrepreneurs, and it is disrupting major corporations and creating a handful of jackpots. The way we do business is changing. The world around us is changing, and we have got to stay up to speed in whatever industry we're working in. We've got to stay up to speed with how the world is changing so that we don't miss the boat or miss out, because billions of dollars are exchanging hands, and I think it's time that we get our share of it. So the short-term rental phenomenon is just this. This is what it looks like. Airbnb and other various platforms has created a new way to travel, right? This picture on the left is a picture of me. Every July, I take a trip, usually out of the country, and that was me in Paris a couple years ago at the Louvre Museum. And I took this photo, but the interesting thing is, while I was in Paris, I didn't stay in the Marriott, I didn't stay in the Hilton or any of the places that I would normally stay. I stayed in an Airbnb, and I had the best experience. I had the experience of a lifetime, because I got to experience the city in a way that the locals experience the city. It's created a new way to travel. Now, we're talking a lot today about Airbnb, and I'm going to mention it a lot, but I do want to make it clear that Airbnb is just one of several platforms. There's VRBO, there's HomeAway, there's Booking.com, and the list goes on and on. But we talk a lot about Airbnb because Airbnb is the most widely known. It has the greatest market share. And I like to use this as an example. It's just like, Gerald, when we're asking for, if we got the sniffles and we need a tissue, most times we say, give me a Kleenex. But a Kleenex is simply a brand of tissue. They've done a great job at branding themselves and gaining market share. And so it is with short-term rentals. We're talking about the short-term rental market, but most times people say, you know, Airbnb, or I'm staying in an Airbnb, or I want to be an Airbnb investor, because that's the household name for the market. Airbnb has over 150 million total users. 80 million monthly visitors to their website. And tonight, 2 million people will be staying in Airbnbs around the world as opposed to staying at a regular hotel chain.
Wow.
This is a quote from that same Forbes magazine article. It says, Airbnb is an economic revolution that is quietly turning millions of people into part-time entrepreneurs. And that's why we're on this training tonight. We're going to talk about how you can become an entrepreneur with Airbnb, whether full-time or part-time. In order to really understand why this is so important and to delve into the change that's happening in the marketplace when it comes to in rental housing and investing, we're going to have to first understand the traditional buy and hold investing model, like the landlord model, which, by the way, is what that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, initially taught me: how to be a landlord, how to purchase a property, how to hold on to it for long-term rental income and appreciation, how to make it a passive investment so that I could get out of the rat race and earn passive income on a monthly basis. So that's the traditional landlord model. You buy a house, you put a tenant in it, you rent that house out, and hopefully your expenses are less than your income so that you're making passive monthly residual income. Well, short-term rentals has created a new way of thinking. Like the traditional model is a yearly rental. You put a tenant in it for at least 12 months, right? That 12 months, every month you're collecting a monthly rental income and you're cash flowing, hopefully at least a couple $100 a month on that property. The short-term rental model is much different. You still have this rental property, but instead of renting it yearly, you're now renting it daily. Instead of hoping for a monthly check with a monthly cash flow, now you have multiple payouts per month with a much larger and increased cash flow. And when I say multiple payouts, the way Airbnb works, for instance, in one of my units, somebody checks in today, right? So after they check in today, I will have a direct deposit into my bank account, into my PayPal account tomorrow for the length of their full stay. Now let's look at these landlord models by comparison. A traditional landlord, now let's assume that this individual, this landlord owns the property free and clear, that they have no mortgage. There are a lot of people who own property free and clear, and there are just as many that do not. But for the sake of this example, let's assume that there's no mortgage on the property. And so we place a tenant in that property for $1,200 a month. So at the end of every month, or at the beginning, whenever you get your rental check, you have a cash flow of $1,200. Now, the short-term model looks like this. The average hotel room in the United States is $133 a night. Let's assume that you only rent your property, instead of a full month, out of 30 days or 31 days, you only rent it 21 days a month. And let's assume you're renting it for $125 a night. That income is now $2,625. You subtract your few expenses, utilities of about $300, and now your cash flow is $2,325 that month. That's only rented for 21 days. There are another 9 or 10 days left that you could. And another thing that's important to note here is the $125 a night is a very conservative number.
Yeah.
But in either case, you're almost doubling your cash flow by choosing a short-term model as opposed to a traditional landlord model.
Wow.
Now, let me show you how I stumbled into this. All right, this is how I stumbled into this. I started as a flipper, and I still renovate houses. Got several properties that we have under renovation right now as we speak. But I changed my model several months ago, 9 or 10 months ago, and I said, everything that I'm renovating, no longer am I flipping it to sell it or renovating it to sell it. I'm gonna start holding on to some stuff, right? And this is how it happened for me. This is the finished product of a home that I renovated in downtown Atlanta. This property appraised after the renovation. I bought it for like, I don't remember, like $40,000. I put a little over 100,000 in it, and had it appraised for $342,000. After having it appraised, I listed this house for sale around September or so of last year for $339,900. After 2 weeks, I had no showings, no contract. Now, this was new to me because the Atlanta market has been booming. And it was not uncommon at all to list a house on Friday, have 5 offers by Monday, a contract, and close 21 to 30 days later. Just like clockwork, it happened every single time. But the market began to shift. And we've had a shift in the market that a lot of investors don't necessarily want to admit to, but it is reality. Okay, so this property appraised for $342. I listed it for $339. No takers. 2 weeks later, I reduced the price to $329. No takers. 2 weeks later, I reduced the price again to $319,900, and I finally had 2 showings, but still no offers. Now, I told you my numbers, right? I mean, I had plenty of profit or equity in the property. I couldn't continue to reduce the price. But for me, I understood something, and this is a principle that I live by. My life is guided by it. When something is not working, I ask myself, maybe this is not the thing I'm supposed to be doing. I ask myself then, what is next? If not this, then what is next? So as opposed to continuing to reduce the price to get it sold and off my books, I began to think about what was next. And I began to research more about Airbnb. I stayed in Airbnbs all around the world. And so every time I stayed in one, I was like, maybe this is something to consider as an investor. So finally, when that property didn't sell the way I wanted it to, I researched Airbnb, and that became my what's next. So that property I listed on Airbnb, and these are my numbers for my first 3 full months in the Airbnb business with that house. That house, the market rent in that area was about $1,400 a month. I listed my house in the middle of the month, and so I didn't even include those numbers. I made like $1,400 just for half of the month, the very first month that I listed it. But my first full month in the business, we made $2,117. That was our net after paying our manager, right? $2,100. The second full month in the business, I made $2,400. The third full month in the business, I made $3,200 from a property that had a market rent of $1,400. When I tried Airbnb, I said, this is just going to be, I'm just going to test it. It was like September or so. I said, we're going through the slow months of the year. Traditionally, real estate slows down after kids get back in school. So I said, I'm going to put this on Airbnb. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to wait till the new year comes around. When people start getting their tax refund checks, they start buying houses again, right? So I'll relist it in January, February, and I'll sell it. But I began to do so well on Airbnb that by the time January, February came around, I said, no thanks. I'm going to keep it on Airbnb. As a matter of fact, the house right across the street from it, I was renovating at the time. In January, I finished that renovation, and I made it an Airbnb as well. And the reality is, Gerald, since late October, when I listed that property last year, to this very day, both of them now, to this very day, I've not had a single weekend that was unoccupied. And my occupancy has been well over 20 days, some months, 30 complete days, the whole month, the properties were rented. As a matter of fact, just this morning, I have one property that's not booked for this, that wasn't booked for this weekend. And I said, man, this is gonna be my first weekend since October that nobody was staying in my property. And I promise you, 2 hours ago, I got a ding on my phone from somebody that wants to rent my place this weekend for 5 days.
Wow.
So let me ask you this question, just to consider, right? What if you had an extra bedroom in your house? Maybe you're not the investor, maybe you don't have a property that you can turn over to a short-term right now, full-time property. What if you had an extra bedroom in your house? Maybe you're an empty nester. And what if you took that extra bedroom and you rented it for $50 a night and you did it just 15 days out of the month? That's an extra $750 a month, which is an extra $9,000 a year. I know a lady who tried this, and she began to be booked so much in that one bedroom that in her third bedroom, which was an office, she decided to take her office out of that bedroom, make it another Airbnb room, and now she's renting that property, that bedroom out. And the last time we spoke, she said that she's in the process of finding a whole nother house that she can move into, and she's gonna turn that whole unit into an Airbnb property. What if you had a basement? I move a lot, right? And it's a whole strategy around that and why I've moved every 2 years since I was 20. I'm getting tired of moving, honestly. There's a whole strategy around that. But Gerald, every time I move, I say, I gotta make sure I have me a basement. And the reality is I get a basement, and there are some months where I don't even go to the basement for the whole month. I always think I gotta have one, but I never use it. And there are people that are listening or watching right now that are in that same boat. Maybe you have a basement that you can rent out for just 15 days a month at $100 a month, or $100 a night rather. What would an extra $1,500 a month do for you and for your household? An extra $18,000 a year. These are just some scenarios to consider. Now I want to jump into the 5 myths about Airbnb hosting. 5 myths. The first myth is that Airbnb requires you to be active and that you have to be hands-on as a manager or a host. You have to be an active manager. And that is not true. You do not have to be. If you choose to be an active host, you can be. But there are ways and sources that you can outsource to. So if you remember the earlier slide, and I said this was my first 3 months income, and there was a larger number next to it. Well, the larger number was the gross before paying my Airbnb manager at the time. You know, my son manages some of my units now, and so he gets that fee. But the reality is there are ways that you can passively invest as an Airbnb host by bringing on board other individuals to co-host with you so that it can be a passive investment. So you don't have to be a hands-on investor if you don't want to be. Myth number 2 is that Airbnb is only for renting out extra rooms in your main residence. So I gave you those scenarios. I said, you know, what if you had an extra room? But maybe you're watching and you say, I don't want to do that. That's not my thing. I don't want people renting rooms in my house. You don't have to. You can rent a single room, or you can acquire property or rent property and then re-rent it out on a short-term rental platform. So you don't have to rent your main residence out unless you're comfortable with that. Myth number 3 is your unit needs to be in a prime location for Airbnb to work. Now, this is the way I answer that, because I get that question a lot. People say, Keto, most of your units are downtown, you're close to the stadium, etc. It won't work for me. But the reality is, if there's a hotel in the area, then Airbnb will work in that area. because anybody that's looking for an overnight stay in a hotel would also be interested or consider renting your Airbnb unit. Airbnb is an alternative for staying in a hotel. So if the hotel works in your area, then an Airbnb will work also in that area. You have to keep in mind that people don't just come to your city or come to your town for a major event, right? Sometimes people come for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes they come for family reunions. Sometimes people come to town because there's a relative who's sick in the hospital. Sometimes, unfortunately, people have to come to town because somebody passed away. You know, maybe it's their class reunion, a business conference. The list goes on and on and on of why people come to a city. Does not have to be a major city. Myth number 4, you need a really expensive luxury property to make good money on Airbnb. Well, my first Airbnb was a very nice property. It had an appraised value of $342,000. It had all the bells and whistles, the finishes, etc. It was a nice unit. But this is one of my units here. This is actually the unit that my son manages. This is a 2-bedroom duplex. We own the whole building. This is one side of the duplex. We had a housing authority tenant in this property. The person that was staying in this house originally was on Section 8. This person was paying $952 a month. Well, actually, Section 8 was paying that. Her portion was only like $250. She didn't even pay her $250. So I thought Airbnb is working so well, I'm happy to send her a vacate notice. So we sent her a notice to vacate. When she moved out, now watch this, Gerald. This is what blows my mind, because you don't have to spend a lot of money even to get these units prepared. This was a test for me. This was a test for me. My other units were considered luxury properties, very nice. I said, let me test this 2-bedroom unit. When the tenant left, she left that sofa, she left that dresser you see over there.
Wow.
80% of the furnishings in this house, the tenant left behind. I went in, cleaned the stuff up, set the unit up, hung that TV on the wall. That TV had been in my garage for a year since we moved the last time.
Wow.
Hung that TV up on the wall, and we called it Eclectic Living. My son listed this property on Airbnb, and this property has had like 90% occupancy since the day that he listed it. In fact, the person that's there now booked the place for 31 days, and at the end of the 31 days, rebooked it for another 32 days. And so my son has basically had no vacancy in the last 2 months.
Wow.
So you don't have to have a luxury property. Myth number 5. Myth number 5 is you need to own a unit in order to be an Airbnb host, right? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I told you if you stick around to the end, we had something free to give you. And this is the resource that we're going to give you free. Gerald will make sure that he gets that into your hands for being on the call tonight. But it's my resource. It's a 10-page document that I've put together, a guide to how to generate 6 figures on Airbnb this year without owning a single property. It's a strategy that we call rental arbitrage, how you go and rent a property and then turn right back around and list it as a short-term rental. So that's definitely a myth. You don't have to own the unit in order to be an Airbnb host. And we'll make sure, if you stick around to the very end, we'll make sure that you get that free resource. So as I wrap this up, let me tell you why I like short-term rental investing. I like it because it creates a low barrier of entry, right? One of the things that is required for an Airbnb investor is simply a little bit of time to go and turn a room into a unit, or some time to go and negotiate the rental of a property so you can re-rent it. But it's a low barrier of entry. It's not like fix and flipping where you got to have several $1,000s in your bank account, or credit where you have to get a loan and where you have to manage contractors and all of those things, right? So it's a fairly low barrier of entry. Anybody can do it, right? The other reason I like it is because it creates supplementary income. So for the person who's fulfilled on their job and they say, I'm not looking to do something new or something full time, I just want to add some extra cash. Well, rent out a bedroom or do this on the side, get one unit. It's something that you can definitely do on the side and create some additional income. And it's a steady flow of leads. And what I mean by that is any other type of business that you create, you're going to have to make sure that you get leads into your business in order to market, sell, whatever the case is. Airbnb, remember all those millions of visitors I said they have on a monthly basis? Airbnb has all the leads for you. All you've got to do is prepare a room or prepare a unit and put your property on the profile, and the leads steadily flow into your Airbnb inbox. You can literally manage this business from your smartphone. Another reason I like short-term investing is because I have seen this business save people from foreclosure. I have seen individuals who could no longer afford a property and they turn it into a short-term rental and they save their house. I've seen and know of individuals who had extra bedrooms and they said, let me rent out this extra bedroom or this basement. They brought in supplementary income to help get them through a tough time, and they were able to save their house from foreclosure. I've seen, and this might sound funny, but I've seen this business reduce loneliness. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. There are a lot of people who are empty nesters now. There are a lot of people who are retired now, who have extra spaces in their homes, and they are twiddling their thumbs with nothing to do. And when they consider this as an opportunity, now they get to be very selective about who they let into their home. They get to screen them, but at the same time, they get to welcome guests. They get to become a host, and it's something that they absolutely love. I've also seen this go from an individual side hustle to their main gig. The lady I told you about earlier that started out renting a bedroom and then converted her office and started renting a second bedroom, now is looking to add multiple units. This has now quickly turned into her main gig. Now, remember my grandfather, I showed you his photo at the very beginning. Here's another picture. That's my son on the left, my daughter, my sister. We're a year and 4 days apart. People often think we're twins. She's 1 year and 4 days younger than me. There's my grandfather, there's my mom to the right, and then, of course, there's me. Now, several years ago, our church used to take a trip every summer. When I was my son's age, I remember being on a trip. I think we were in Myrtle Beach or Daytona Beach. We were at the beach. And we were all out just having a good time, and my granddaddy, was the guy who always had a great time. And in fact, he always enjoyed hanging with the kids, and the kids enjoyed hanging with him. And so we were at the beach, and we were out in the water just having a great time. And my granddaddy, every time we went further into the water, my grandfather went further into the water. I mean, at this time, he was probably 60, right? He's further into the water. And my mom is standing on the shore yelling, "Daddy, Daddy, what are you doing out there? Daddy, come back here. Daddy, come back here." And finally, because he ignored her for a while, right? He ignored her for a while. He finally came back to the shore. My mom was terrified, and my mom's name's Frida. He said, "What is it, Frida?" She said, "Daddy, why were you way out there in that water? You scared me. It was too far out there. One of those waves could have came by and got you. Daddy, don't do that. I'm scared." And he's like, Frida, calm down. He said, "I was just enjoying the waves." And I thought about that. It's another lesson my grandfather taught me. The people who have the most fun in life learn how to enjoy the waves. Because the reality is life throws some stuff at you. right? Life throws some stuff. There are hard times that come. You just have to learn how to enjoy the waves. People say to me now, and they find out I'm in real estate or still in real estate, they say, man, how are things doing, since the market crashed? I'm like, bruh, that was 10 years ago when the market, what are you talking about? You are so far removed from reality right now. And the truth is, what I learned when the market crashed was it doesn't matter if the market is down, if the market is up. People make money in every market if they learn how to ride the waves. That's what real estate investing is all about. And I suggest to you tonight, to those of you that are still here and still listening to me, that Airbnb is a wave. The short-term rental market is a wave, and it is changing the way landlords do landlording, and it is changing the way investors do what they do as investors. It's a wave, and people are riding it and enjoying it. And that's one of the things that I learned from my grandfather. And just like I learned it from my grandfather, I'm teaching it to my son, how to enjoy the waves. My 16-year-old son is catching waves. This was just a few weeks ago. We were doing a live presentation on short-term rentals. And I was interviewing him, and he was talking about his short-term rental experience. So he's taking questions from people. He's explaining his process and how he accepts guests, and he's just talking about the experience he's had. And it's only been 3 months for him. And in 3 months, in the last 90 days, in his first 90 days, the property that he is renting, that property I showed you earlier, that eclectic living unit, has created $5,509.02 direct deposited into our PayPal account for that property. And it's just been 90 days. And if my 16-year-old can do it, so can you.
Wow. Wow.
So the question is, are you going to be the next success story? You're not going to let a 16-year-old show you up, are you? Right? Don't let a 16-year-old outdo you. Now, mind you, he's a real smart kid. He's my son, right? I mean, I do need to throw that in there, but if he can do it, I think you can do it too. This is a photo. I like this slide because there's another picture of me in Paris. I like this slide because it shows you, and it allows you to see what passive income can do for you. It's really about a lifestyle that we're looking to create. The best way to leave something in your children is to create time to leave something in them, right? And I won't talk about every photo, but I do want to mention the one on the far left. This was a few years ago, and every summer, we take a family vacation. And this particular year, I thought I was going to let my kids plan it. So I gave my son my credit card. I said, y'all talk about it. Let me know where you want to go. Just go ahead and call. We have a family member who's a travel agent. Just go ahead and call your auntie, let her book everything, blah, blah, blah. So they did. My kids chose, I don't know why they chose Boca Raton, Florida. I don't know how kids even know a place exists called Boca Raton, but they booked this trip to Boca Raton, right? And we get down to Delta, and we get on the plane, and it was a last-minute trip. It was a last-minute booking, so seats were limited. And I took this photo of me sitting in Delta Comfort, and my 2 children sitting 2 seats in front of me, one in front of the other, in first class. Wow. And I'm trying to figure out how these kids got in first class and stuck me back here in Delta Comfort, right? Well, those happen to be the last 2 seats in first class left, so they decided to take those seats for themselves. But I say all of that to say this is the thing that real estate has the ability to create. And again, Airbnb short-term rentals is a very low barrier of entry to create something major for your family, and it does long to do it. So I've created this course, Short-Term Rentals, Long-Term Profits. It is an online course, and I see the questions are coming in. I can't wait. Just stick around a second, right? I'm almost finished.
I'm gonna tell you what, before he finishes, you all drop your questions, because when he's done, I'm the first one to ask a question. I'm telling you guys, drop your questions. Go ahead, Guido. Go ahead.
So this course, Short-Term Rentals, Long-Term Profits, is an online course, all right? And it tells you how to create a six-figure plan to create a passive income stream with Airbnb. And I do talk about other platforms in the course. It's 17 training videos on how to build a six-figure Airbnb business. And it covers, these are some of the major topics it covers. Choosing your market, how to choose your market. It might not be, when you go through the training, you might discover that your market might not be your home market. There are a number of individuals who manage short-term rentals in other markets, sometimes even in other states. So we talk about choosing your market, how to determine the best markets for your business. We teach about how to find your property. So once you determine the market, then how to find the property, how to secure that unit, how to prepare your unit for short-term rentals, how to market for maximum cash flow, short-term rental management, the best practices for management, and has a module on how to fast track to six figures. The retail value of this course is $2,518. Now, Shaquille O'Neal said this. He said there are 7 days in a week, and someday isn't one of them. I teach people all the time. I host events all the time, and folks come month after month after month, and they get the training, and they say, okay, you know, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try it one day, someday. But someday never seems to show up. I hope I'm talking to people tonight who know how to take action. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this is not for people who don't take action. This is not for people who are course collectors, right? You buy everybody's course, but you never open it. We don't want your money if you're not going to do anything with it. This is not for people who want to go and quit their job tomorrow because you're an Airbnb investor and you're going to make $1 million by Friday. It's not overnight. It happened fairly quickly for my son, and it can. But if that's your motivation, then this course is not necessarily for you. But it is for that individual who says, I want to know more about short-term rental investing. I'm ready to do something. I'm ready to ride the wave, and I want to ride it the correct way. I want to be trained on how to surf this industry properly. Right? It's for that individual. It's for that individual who says, I want to set myself up for something long-term, and I want the strategy to do it. It's for that individual who's going to apply themselves, who's going to go through the modules, who is going to take the time to apply what you learn in the system. All right, so this is everything you're going to get. You got a $22,500 value of a course. I'm going to give you my house rules checklist. That's $195 value. I'm going to give you my housekeeper hiring guideline, because the main thing you're going to need is a good housekeeper, and it's not the Molly maids that come and clean your house right now. It's a totally different process. I'm going to give you those guidelines. I'm going to give you the guest check-in checklist that I use, my unit essentials checklist, what I found that works and what doesn't work. I'm going to talk about furniture and decoration guidelines, what the essentials are, etc. Right? All of those are $195 values. Trust me, if you try to do this business without any one of those things, you rack your brain trying to come up with it from scratch. Don't reinvent the wheel. It's not necessary. You're going to get our 10-page guide on rental arbitrage, which is another $195 value. And you're going to get 30 days unlimited priority email support. So I will be answering your questions, not just somebody from my team, right? All of that is a value of $3,988. Okay. So for a $4,000 investment, if all you did after investing $4,000 was make a room available in your house, and you make $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 by the end of this year, would it be worth it? If you got the knowledge that you needed so that you can screen a guest properly before accepting them into your unit, and you save yourself a claim, would this be worth it, right? If all you got after making a $4,000 investment was information that you were able to immediately apply and use it to teach your teenage child on how to create something on the side while you keep doing whatever you're doing, would the $4,000 be worth it? Again, this is everything you're going to get. It's a $4,000 value, but today your investment is not $4,000. It's not $3,000. It's not $1,500, which, by the way, we sell this course for $1,995, $2,000 on a regular basis. But because you're part of the house flipping family, the house flipping guide, because you're friends with Gerald, Mr. and Ms. Harris, I have created a discount code where you can get this for $1,500 off for a total of $497. And if you take action now, and Gerald, this is something that I just added. This wasn't even in my slide deck. I added it like 25 minutes before we went live. This take action bonus, I wanted to do something special for your audience. I have a course called Real Estate Investing 101 for Generational Wealth. It's a $1,000 course. I have never given it away for free, ever. This is the fast action bonus that I want to offer your group tonight. Those who purchase this course for the discounted rate of $497, they're not going to get I'm going to get all of this and my course, Real Estate Investing 101 for Generational Wealth. $1,000 value, total value here, $4,985. And if you take action now, you get it for $497.
Wow. Wow. So, Tito, question. See, this is the thing. I got about 10 or 15 questions, but you know what? I can contact you personally. This is the thing. This is the thing I want people to, one of the reasons I started the House Flipping Guide YouTube channel and then the House Flipping Family Facebook group was because of a foundation of foreclosure, right? I was the person when I was in real estate investing back in the days, when I was a real estate agent. One of the things I used to do was I would help people in foreclosure. Mm-hmm. And I did not know there was no Airbnb way back in the days. I did not have a solution. I did not have. And so when you talk about this being a solution of foreclosure, people that are behind on payments and whatnot, and this helping in a rapid way in getting people out of foreclosure, that is a real estate investing niche that you all can go ahead and involve yourselves in. I mean, kudos, man. But you know what? Let me go ahead and get into some of these questions over here. So, Keto, one of the questions I have is, how do you handle insurance claims, and tenant difficulties?
Okay, you cut out a little bit. You said, how do you handle insurance and what?
Yeah, how do you handle, hold on one second. How do you handle insurance claims, and tenant difficulties?
Okay. All right. So the first thing I want to make clear is they're not tenants, they're guests. And that's a very important distinction. That's a very important distinction, because if they were tenants, you would have to go and file the eviction process in your city. And in Atlanta, if I have a tenant, it takes me about 30 days to get them out of my place. So they are not tenants, they're guests. They don't pay. You can go over to the house. Airbnb will help, whatever it takes. Like if you needed to call a law, it happens quickly. Now, I've never had to do that. I don't have any horror stories to tell you about guests, and I've hosted 70 folks probably by now, or 70 different groups by now, right? So I don't have any horror stories to tell you. But when it comes to insurance, if there is a claim against, maybe they came in and damaged your property. Again, I have not had that happen. But if they come in and damage your property, Airbnb has $1 million policy that covers you, and I talk about this in the course and how to do that, but that covers you from property damage. So that's property damage. Now, you also, and I talk about this also in the course, you need to make sure that your homeowner's insurance, or if you're renting the property, and you get some sort of landlord's policy that does cover short-term rental guests. There are specific policies that cover it, and there are companies that we can point you in the direction to get that type of information from. So you need to be covered from a liability perspective through your homeowners or renters coverage.
Good deal. Good deal. Another question is how do you convince a landlord to authorize the tenant to sublet the home?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So again, in our tenants, they're going to be guests. You're going to be the only tenant in that property. Okay. That document, that freebie, you're here at the end, so I'm sure Gerald's going to make sure you get it. But that's one of the things that is covered in that particular document. But real quickly, I'll tell you, when you approach this landlord, you're going to sell the landlord on the benefits of renting to you. I'm going to talk to you about renting as a corporation, right? You're going to set yourself up as a corporate housing provider. You're going to say to this landlord, you know, as opposed to finding somebody to rent your place for a year, I'm going to be interested in renting for a longer term. I have the same goal as you. The house has to be in tip-top shape. I'm going to make sure. So you're going to sell the landlord on the benefits to renting to you, and you managing short-term guests. A short-term renter, a short-term tenant, or short-term guest is not doing nearly any of the wear and tear that a long-term tenant has in a property, right? When a guest comes in my place, they come in with a suitcase. They're not bringing any furniture and beating the wall. Most of the time, they're not even there throughout the day. Most of the time, they're visiting the city for something else, and they're only sleeping there, right? So those are the types of things that you're going to talk to a landlord about. And that's how you sell them on the proposal to rent out short term.
Okay. Another question is how much should I pay a property management agency to manage and clean my vacation rental condo?
Okay, great question. All right, so managing and cleaning are two different things. So the average management fee for if you outsource Airbnb management, the average fee is 15 to 30%, right? My son is now managing for other people. His fee right now is 20% to do that, right? And he's trained by the best, by the way. So, but between 15 and 30% is what the average management fee is. Now, the cleaning, and I have modules in the training, in the course on just cleaning and how to choose a cleaner, etc. But a good baseline for cleaning, I think our 2-bedroom units, our cleaner gets paid like $80 to clean that. And it's not just cleaning, it's completely turning the unit, preparing for the next guest. They're very, very detailed steps that have to happen, of course, in the online course. You get those steps. So for my 2-bedroom unit, we're paying like $80 for my 3-bedroom luxury units. One of them is like $115 for a turn. Another unit is like $115, $120 for a turn, something like that. Now keep in mind, when you set your rental rate, your nightly rental rate on the Airbnb profile, that is separate from your cleaning. There is a separate line item for cleaning. So if you're getting $125 a night for renting the unit, then there's also a separate line item that is charged to the guest for the cleaning fee. So even though the $80 unit that I was telling you, the 2-bedroom, we charge $100 to the guest. The cleaner gets 80 of that. Okay?
Wow. Good stuff. Another question is somebody asked, how do I find out about Airbnb success in my city? Atlanta is pretty popular. I'm in Indianapolis.
Yes, perfect question. I hate to keep plugging the course, but I have a whole module. There's a whole video training on that, right? But one tip I'll give you, right, is just go to, don't have an Airbnb already on your phone, or go to Airbnb on your computer. When you get off this training, type in your address. Type in your address. It says, where are you traveling to? Type in your address as if you're traveling to your house, like you're looking for a place to stay near your house. And look at the other units that are there. And you can see how much they're charging for their units. You can see how many people in your area. Airbnb's map will tell you how far those places are from your destination address. So there's several tips I give you in the course, but that's one real easy way that you can do.
Good deal, good deal. Another question from Anthony is does Airbnb market your home to these guests? How do you go about marketing your property to these guests?
Great question, and absolutely, that's one of the reasons I love Airbnb, the platform itself, because they have more visitors to their site than any other short-term rental platform. Let me tell you something. The most difficult thing you will do in this business, and it's not all that difficult, but the most tedious thing you'll do is get the unit prepared, getting it staged, getting the items in there that you have to have, and taking good pictures. Once you get that unit set up and you put it on Airbnb, you will begin to get inquiries if you follow our system. So Airbnb is bringing you your leads. They're bringing the guests. People are searching all day, every day. You do not have to market or pay to market external of Airbnb. All you got to do is get it ready, follow our steps to putting it on the platform. We talk about how to name your listing, how to describe your listing. Just get it on the platform. I promise you. And this is a true story. I'm going to tell you, 3 weeks or so ago, I was in Miami, right? I was in my real estate conference. I stayed in an Airbnb, right? At this real estate conference, there's this guy that I met from Baltimore. This guy owns apartment buildings in Baltimore. He was telling me that he had a tenant that was moving out. And I said, well, why don't you try to put it on Airbnb? I kid you not, at the bar, this guy uploaded photos of his property on Airbnb. He had never had an Airbnb profile. He downloaded Airbnb at the bar and put his pictures up on the platform. No crazy description, nothing. He just tested it out. The next day when I show back up at the conference, he said, Keto, look, somebody inquired about my place. Somebody wants to rent my place. You don't have to worry about leads. Just take good pictures and follow our process to get it listed properly.
So you all looking to go ahead and take advantage of that. That's the, I went ahead, I dropped the bit.ly link in the chat description. It's bit.ly/Airbnb Profits 1. Use the discount code Airbnb Profits. Keto, one thing that you mentioned that stood out to me, and this is not just for myself, but everybody here that's listening. Your son, at 16 years old, with the beginning mindset of an entrepreneur. Can you talk about that and how, as a father, how impressive that is?
I definitely can. I actually enjoy talking about it because people approach me often like, wow, your children, whatever, right? What a blessing to be in the house with you. Those types of things they say. What did you do? What did you make them read? What do you make them watch on TV? How'd you put that in them? I believe in the principle of exposure. Like, I'm a single dad. I told you at the beginning, my kids have been with me for the last 11 years. Well, they're old enough to stay at home now. I would by themselves. I would have my son on this training with me, but after he got off of work today, he works at a summer camp, loves his job, makes it very clear to me Dad, you know, I like real estate, but I just do that on the side. I'm passionate about changing kids' lives. He knows what his passion is. Every day he comes home and he says, I love my job. I love my job. So when he got off a summer camp job today, he came in and he said, Dad, is it okay if I go with some of my coworkers to eat? Absolutely. Fine, right? Otherwise, he would be on this call with me. But I say all of that to say my kids were always with me. Like, they were exposed to the conversations. Like, when they were 8, 9 years old, they weren't at the babysitter. They were at the office with me. They were in my business meetings. They were in the boardroom with me. They were going to look at houses and doing flips and renovations. And they just overheard, they were just exposed to it. I say all of that to say, if you're on this call right now and you're a parent and you're trying to figure out how to make a difference in your children's life, how to inspire entrepreneurship in their life, just have the conversations with them. Just put them around the conversation. Like, make sure that when we have dinner at night, and I don't just ask them how school was, I tell them how my business day was. They know my clients, they know my attorneys, they know my investors, they know my private lenders, they know them by name because we talk about it. And so it's in them, whether you want it to be or not. Sometimes when I don't think they're listening, I'll say this for a whole nother conversation, Gerald, but my son sold a house at 13 years old. He stole a client from me.
What?
He stole a client from me because he overheard the client telling me what she was looking for. And he went on my MLS account and found them property and emailed it to him and called a listing agent and scheduled a showing and texted me from school as a 13-year-old and said, remember when Miss So-and-so was telling you what she was looking for the other day at the dinner? I said, yeah. He said, I found her house. And I already emailed it to her, and she likes it. And don't worry, Dad, I already scheduled the showing appointment with the listing agent. Can you take me to meet her at 6 o'clock today when I get out of school? And I took him to meet her, my client that he stole. She loved the house, and we wrote a contract the next morning for $330,000, and the lady closed 3.5 weeks later.
13 years old.
13 years old. And I never said, son, sit down, let me teach you MLS. Son, let me show you how to talk to a real estate agent. Son, let me tell you how to schedule. And he just heard me do it. And he picked it up. It's a part of it.
Keto Johnson, I want to thank you for your time, man. Yeah, we're going to talk. We're going to talk offline. Hey, family, you all, Mr. Keto Johnson, thank you for that. Amazing, amazing. You all take the time to go ahead and take action. Nakia said, leading is key. Exposure too, it's interesting too. I'm going to tell you something, Nakia. It's, Keto had just said something that really stuck out in my mind. I'm going to probably say about 3 weeks ago, my mother-in-law specifically told me, because I have a daughter. The daughter's a baby girl. Some of you all have seen her on the YouTube videos and whatnot. I have a daughter. One of the things my mother-in-law told me, she was like, always expose her to what it is you're doing, because she will begin to pick it up. Yeah. I have a lot going on right now, family, a whole lot. And even more with the social media and the Facebook group and you know, just different TV channels contacting, emailing us, and it's amazing. Mm-hmm. So Keto, I want to go ahead and thank you for your time, man. If you all looking to go ahead and take action, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link again. That is bit.ly /Airbnb Profits. Also, use the discount code, which is Airbnb Profits. Okay? Drop it in there again, Airbnb Profits. Cecilia said, I take my 14-year-old daughter with me everywhere. Thank you. You all take action, okay? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop the free gift in each of your email accounts. Okay, so that you all don't have to worry about it messing up or whatever. I already know everybody that stayed on, it's 114 of you right now. Know everyone that stayed on, don't worry about it. You all will have the free guide, the free gift within about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I'm gonna go ahead and send that to each and every one of you, okay? Johnson, thank you for your time, man. Great presentation, and I really appreciate that.
Certainly, thank you. I've enjoyed it very much.
All right. You all have a good evening. Take care.
All right, good night.